Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, once again, this is Jeffrey Daniel with another VORtext. Now, as you know, the VOR is the acronym for Voice of Reason, and this is my text. Okay, on this third day of March 2026, according to that Gregorian calendar, you know I'm always going to bang on that Gregorian calendar as I attempt to pull you all in with this aggregation of information and knowledge to help edify your cognitive facilities in this climate of fake news and cancel culture. I do endeavor to be the voice of reason. Now, if I disseminate any uncomfortable truths, remember, the truth has no obligation to be comfortable. It just has to be honest. Now, putting in my disclaimer, I am not a racist. I only like to bang on topics and issues that are affecting this existential journey called life that we're all a prisoner of. I do not like to bang on any group of people, any individual, or any race of people unless you deserve it. All right? My quote for today is, in this generation, intelligent people are being silenced as not to offend ignorant people. Marinate on that. You see, everybody seems to be for social media, but social media is not for everybody. Everyone has a voice, but not everyone needs to be heard. Quite too often, social media has become the anti-social medium. It's a platform that brings people together to discover how divisive some can be with issues that they can't share common grounds with. A platform where anyone can exhibit their idiosyncrasies as well as their brilliance, where serial trollers can intrude upon our presentations unabated and false information reigns supreme. But here I am toiling through insurmountable heaps of research in an attempt to bring you the unadulterated truths just so you can either scrutinize it or accept it and enrich your lives with empirical knowledge vetted by incontrovertible facts, okay? Now, everyone has a modus operandi and a mind of their own. Let's see if we can utilize social media as a tool to help better our human condition and not a weapon to cater to the worst of our behavior. Let's try to elevate our species above the lower frequencies that are built on hate, ego, greed, envy, materialism, and despair. Let's spread the love and make love great again. That's my motto. Make love great again. And I believe if we can make love great again, we will all be great. And I'm down with that, you guys. I'm really down with that. Now, I guess by now everyone is entrenched with this war in Iran that Trump and Israel has initiated. So let's address the elephant in the room. We got to get around this, you guys. I call it the abomination bombing of a nation. The abominable abomination bombing of a nation. That's what I call it. All right, that's a tongue twister. But in all seriousness, you guys, these are really some, dire times we're facing right now. This is getting serious. This is getting serious. There's so many narratives concerning Trump's bombing Iran that it's almost impossible to know where to start. But one thing is for sure, the USA had no reason to go to war with Iran. The US military had already bombed the Iranian nuclear facility site back in June 22nd, 2025, just last year, and claimed that they had totally obliterated their nuclear bomb-making facilities. If that was the case, then why are they claiming to have to go back and bomb them again to stop them from building nuclear bombs? The math ain't mathin'. That math just ain't mathin', you guys. Or has the President of the United States of America and the US military been relegated to an Israeli security guard dog? Talks were still in progress when Netanyahu jumped the gun and started bombing Iran, causing the US military to follow suit. Trump has placed the priority of the Israeli agenda over the US Congress and the lives of US service personnel. That's deep, you guys. How does the interest of Israel supersede the interest of the American people? Which country was Trump elected to serve? You have to think about that. What country was Trump elected to serve in? I would think the USA. And they do say USA, USA, America first. But he's doing the biddings of Israel, So it's just things to make you go, Well, as you know, rumor has it that Netanyahu has something over on President Donald Trump. That, if revealed, it could cost Trump his presidency and his freedom. But that's just a rumor. But whatever the case, Trump has officially enrolled the United States military in the Israeli-Iranian conflict. And the domino effect is now drawing other countries into this war. Let's see how far these acts of aggression go. It's getting kind of hectic. It's getting kind of hectic, y'all. It's getting very hectic right now. Rumors aside, the most suspicious thing is the timing of this bombing campaign. As soon as the former First Lady Hillary Clinton made her deposition with no justifiable cause and found free of any connection to Jeff Epstein, the lens turned towards the present First Lady Melania Trump, who has a litany of evidence tying her to Jeffrey Epstein and his imprisoned female partner, Maxwell. Now, there's a plethora of photos, videos, and redacted letters where you can clearly see Melania cozying up with Mr. Epstein on several occasions. So if the former first ladies and presidents have to stand before a committee, what exempts Trump and Melania? Time will tell, but I smell a distraction. Let's all pray that Trump's attempt to avoid imprisonment doesn't lead us all into the Third World War. That's all I got to say about that. And you all know what's up. You guys know what's up. You know, it's just amazing how things can be done so blatantly and also be ignored as if it's not happening. I don't know what's happening to the world, you guys. You know the name of this commentary I started off because the war broke out while I was in the middle of this commentary, composing it. But I was calling it the unconscious community. And that's what we're becoming, an unconscious community. Because there's these guys who built this thing called the conscious community. And that's supposed to keep us all aware and cognitive of what's going on around us. But we're all walking around like this is an unconscious community. And I'm gonna get to that later on, okay? I'm gonna tell you guys what's happening in the conscious community that's making it the unconscious community, all right? All right. I'm gonna tell you all the best way to get news during this or any other crisis. The very best way that you can get news of what's going on. Me, myself, I switch between CNN, BBC, and Middle Eastern news channels. In HK and social media, you'll be surprised at the comparatively different versions of the same stories that you can access, plus better vantage points. So if you're sticking to only one news outlet, you are missing the whole picture, no matter how credible that channel might be. What you got to do is you have to compare news reports to the different channels because certain news outlets are being, programmed and they're being biased. And you have to get around that bias to see what's really going on and get a more balanced assessment of the news, okay? And that's what I do. I switch between the different channels and I watch what's going on. And I can evaluate and better, see what's going on there, you guys. So check it out. I'm going to talk about what I'm hearing about death to America. What I'm about to disseminate is in no way trying to validate or justify the Islamic regime of Iran. I'm not trying to do that. But I think it's important that you all know a little backstory to help you understand how we got here, all right? Because I think some of you don't understand the history. I have seen news reporters and US politicians echoing they are a terrorist regime, and they were chanting anti-American slogans like death to America, death to America. Now, I'm not advocating death to America in any way, shape, form, or fashion, or death to any other country, okay? But do you know the sentiments behind such pejorative death threats? We gotta be real now. We gotta keep it 1,000. That's if we want to understand the real geopolitical landscapes, all right? History tells tales that people try to hide or overlook. And there are many uncomfortable truths laying beneath the surface. And I'm gonna help you understand it. Did you know, excuse me, I'm getting parched because I'm fasting. We're still in the month of Ramadan, so I can't drink or eat anything. So if I get a little raspy here, excuse that. Did you know that in 1941, Britain took over the Iranian oil fields and stole the country's economic lifeline? Therefore, in 1951, Mohammed Mossadegh, I guess that's his name, Mohammed Mossadegh was elected the Iranian president, and he declared to nationalize the oil sector so the proceeds can go to the Iranian people. A president doing the right thing. And that pissed off the US and British oil companies so much that the CIA and British MI6 overthrew the elected Iranian government and installed the Shah of Iran in the seat of power to ensure that the oil interests of the US and British governments remained intact. So, in 1978, there were massive protests against the Shah of Iran's corruption and brutal oppression against the suppressed Iranian citizens who dared to oppose him, which set into motion the Iranian Revolution, and the Shah was finally overthrown, and they ushered in the Islamic Republic. That's how it got there, okay, you guys? So that's how this supposedly hateful, racist regime got into power as a response to the puppet president that America put in to serve their goods, you see? So now, where we at? So from 1980 into 1988, are you ready for this? You guys got to lean in for this one. Here's where it gets juicy. From 1980 to 1988, the U.S. helps to install the new Iraqi dictator, Saddam Hussein. Is that insane? It was America and the CIA who put Saddam Hussein into power as the Iraqi dictator to wage a war with Iran on their behalf. See, they didn't want to get their hands dirty. Killing over 1 million people trying to break the Iranian society in hopes the US oil companies could take back the oil fields. Damn, this scenario seems so familiar. I thought it only happened to African countries. All right. In 1988, the US naval ship shot down Iranian commercial flight 655, killing 290 civilians, and they never apologized. So, in 1995, the US waged heavy sanctions against Iran in another attempt to crush the Iranian economy to allow US oil companies to move in and rebuild their nation. Over 100,000 Iranians died from the sanctions, kind of like what they're imposing on Cuba right now as we speak, that sanctioned them from life-saving medicines that were being blocked from entry. Can you imagine that? So, at this point, Iran starts vying for nuclear weapons due to the US nonstop assaults against their existence, threatening their government and killing their citizens, also planting US military bases in surrounding countries. So now you know why the Iranic Islamic Republic has a bad taste in their mouths for the USA. So these chants against America are not just baseless, random, arbitrary mantras. They are in response to decades of aggression from the American government. And all I can say is God bless America. Now, as I said before, I don't condone these chants and these anti-American slogans or anything, but this is why these people are doing this. You see, there's always a why. I always say, question the why, not just the what, the where, and the how, but the whys. This has always been America's modus operandi in taking over other nations, invade, steal, kill, and control. And if the oppressed people react or fight back, call them terrorists and insurgents. And American democracy is always the innocent victim. That's how they do it. That's their proclivity. That's their propensity. Okay? Now, I'm gonna switch subjects now real quick, you guys, because if you want to continue, this war is escalating and other things are happening. And it's hard to keep up with because each day there are new things happening with it. So watch the news, keep up with the war, and see what's going on, you know. As they said, watch and pray, because this thing is getting crazy. It just might take us into World War III. We don't know, okay? So, as I say, I'm not a news reporter. I'm not here just to report the news, but I'm here to give us a fresh perspective on what's going on so we can help deal with this thing called life, okay? And get through it the best way we can. But I'm gonna switch to another subject right now. And because I found it really, really funny, very peculiar with these Latinos for Trump. I have to get on these Latinos for Trump, you guys. I was in a very humorous mood today. In fact, I am almost every day. But today, I just can't stop laughing at certain individuals from the Latino community Like I told you all before, I got nothing but love for my Latino brothers and sisters. But hey, people are free to support and vote for their political choice. That's their prerogative. But I'm referring to the Latinos for Trump, the MAGA Latinos. That in itself is an oxymoron. How do you put those two words together? Latino and MAGA? They don't even fit in the same lexicon vocabulary. Now, if only they really understood what the acronym for MAGA, MAGA, really stands for, Hillary Clinton would have been the first female president of the United States. But getting to the point, the object of my laughter is when I saw this Latino lady on stage with Trump at one of his campaign rallies, fanatically praising Trump as if he was her savior incarnated, screaming, "We love Trump, we love Trump, you know, Trump, Latinos for Trump, Latinos for Trump," and so on and so on. Well, guess what? That very lady has been picked up by ICE and she has been deported. You cannot make this up, you guys. You can't make it up. But wait, it gets even better. It gets better. This one Latino guy has a picture of Trump tattooed on his neck. He's got a Latino guy has Trump tattooed on his neck. All right, this you guys can't make this up. And his Latino ass is being deported back to Cuba by Trump's ICE agents and Homeland Security. And for the rest of you Trump supporters in Cuba who are now in the dark with no electricity because Trump has sanctioned the oil from Venezuela, I hope you're happy now with your choice. There was some Cubans going for Trump, you know, advocate for Trump. Of course, they couldn't vote because they're in Cuba, but still, you know, and now they're suffering the consequences, all right? Which begs the question, did that Bad Bunny performance endear the Latino community into the hearts of the ruling Republican Party? Or did it just piss them off more than they already were as they watched Bad Bunny outperform Kid Rock during the halftime show? I'm not trying to bang on the Latino community as a whole, but I guess some of them must have thought that since they weren't as dark as us, that they automatically were members of the privileged club. Wrong. Your membership has been revoked, and now they are crying, "He used us for our votes. He used us for our votes." Duh. They thought they had the complexion for protection, you guys. That is some funny stuff, man. To sit up and go out of your way to support somebody and vote for them and just campaign with them, and they boot you out of the country anyway for doing so. That is deep. That just goes to show Trump's, you know, I don't even want to talk about that no more. Let them deal with that. That's what they deal with. Now, as we continue living in President Trump's ICE age, more Americans and citizens who are documented and immigrants are being detained and killed by ICE and Homeland Security agents. The latest victim is a refugee from Myanmar, and he was half blind and needs a walking stick and barely spoke any English. You see, I don't know this whole story. It just reeks with BS. They claim that he refused his call and requested to be dropped off at a coffee shop near his home. Now, he wasn't even wearing shoes, just the prison booties, and it was freezing cold outside. This sounds too fishy to me. But let me continue. He was later found dead outside near some woods. Upon releasing him, no family members were contacted, and they allegedly dropped him off at a coffee shop. Sounds to me, if you ask me, in my opinion, sounds to me that he was dead before they dropped him off in the woods. After discovering he was not eligible to be deported, he probably died in their custody due to poor health issues, and they panicked and didn't know what to do. So they just threw him off and fished up the story. You have to question everything, people, because why wasn't he even wearing shoes? When they picked him up, he had shoes on. Why would a man that old, and wait a minute, they said that he couldn't really speak English, so how can he be requested to be dropped off at coffee shops or whatever? But how can a man that old and that alone be detained? Family didn't know where he was. They were checking on him. They didn't have any links to where he was. How can he say, okay, don't take me home, don't contact my family, just drop me off at a coffee shop? Who would even do that? Who would even say that? That doesn't make no sense. I believe that he died while he was in their custody, and they freaked out and they panicked. So they dropped him off in the woods, and then they came up with this story about, oh, we dropped him off at a coffee shop and we don't know what happened to him from there, with no shoes on, in the freezing cold. Doesn't make no sense to me, you guys. So anyway, in case any of you are having a shitty day, well, you're not alone, because right now as we speak, a U.S. aircraft carrier named the USS Gerald Ford that Trump has deployed to Iran is facing a major sanitation crisis. Excuse me, my throat. This ship's vacuum-based sewage system is not operating, which means none of the toilets are flushing. We're talking about a $13 billion state-of-the-art aircraft carrier with 5,000 crew members who can't use the toilets. Is that the way to pull up on Iran, you guys? There goes a covert operation. The Iranians will smell them trying to sneak upon their harbor. But I don't see what the problem is. Since they're already at sea, can't they just squat over the edge of the ship and poop into the ocean? That makes sense to me. I guess they can't pee against the wind, or the pee will blow back at them because the over the ocean there's a strong wind. But I don't know, you guys, you cannot make this shit up. Pun intended. As tragic as it is, it's comical of what's going on over there, you guys. So let me get to the main topic. And I don't tend to keep you guys too long, but it's hard to microwave all this aggregation of information that's going on and the things that are happening so precipitously, because things are just snowballing as we go, okay? All right, so that's why, even though I'm parched in that, I have to get through this because things are still evolving. By the time I post this video, new things would have happened, and we have to play catch up, okay? So please lean in with me, bear with me, you guys, okay? You get yourself something to drink, something to make yourself comfortable. This is the last issue right here I'm getting to. And this is what I call the unconscious community. And this is something that I'm really concerned about, okay? Here we go. You guys with me? You ready? Okay, here we go. I like to talk about what has been named the conscious community. They even have a house of consciousness led by Brother Sanetta. So have any of you logged into the videos on YouTube? I started watching them and following their posts since around 2018 or so. And I was impressed and very intrigued by the religious, historical, social, racial, and political information that these brothers were disseminating. In fact, back then they used to hold the most fiery debates to see whose knowledge was more accurate and dominant. Some debates were on the streets and some were in rented halls where people, go in these halls and they get tickets and stuff. And Cy Netter was always the ready moderator. These debates were just as much educational and enlightening as they were entertaining, as these brothers and scholars were like the mouthpieces of knowledge for our global Black community. That's what I was feeling. So that's where I first saw Brother Polite, General Sarah Sutanseti, Young Pharaoh, Brother Shaka Amos, Brother Jabari, Ali Muhammad, Bashir, Captain Tazaryak of the Hebrew Israelites, Minister Nuri Muhammad, and many more. These brothers are Christians, some are Muslims, atheists, agnostics, Egyptologists, and dedicate their lives to researching and disseminating our knowledge and reviving our historical past. That's what these young brothers are doing, and I was so impressed watching them doing this. Now, but it seems somehow outside forces are trying to cancel our conscious community, trying to make us an unconscious community. It's far more easier to promote vulgarity and degrading aspects of our culture than to spread empirical and thought-provoking information that can educate and inspire our people. You see, in order to tell our history, our real history, not their version of our history, that in itself invariably offends certain groups of people who depend on us as a people to remain ignorant to our very true origins and authentic historical facts, okay? Excuse me, I'm getting dry. And the moment we start to expound on our knowledge, they start crying out, it's racial hate messages, it's racial hate messages. And like they, by all costs, can't allow us to know our true history and true knowledge of self. This is deep because once we look back at our real history, certain people and civilizations are no longer prevalent, and worse, some even non-existent. We literally have to fight to know our own history. Once we know who we really are, and I'm talking long before civilization, long before slavery, our encounters with the Europeans, we become empowered with knowledge so potent that it rewires our minds to another level of consciousness. Sorry about that noise out there, you guys. Our true knowledge of self gives us more confidence in this world, more tenacity and purposeful resilience. Let me try that again. Our true knowledge of self gives us more confidence in this world, more tenacity, and more purposeful resilience. But what I want to focus on right now is the plight of two of our very bright and extremely knowledgeable members of the conscious community, Brother Polite and Young Pharaoh. If any of you are just hearing these names, you can go on YouTube and you can look up some of their videos, but you have to go back because as of a couple of years or so, it hasn't been looking too good for these guys. Yeah. There's some people out there going on talking something. Sorry about that, you guys. I can't control that. These young brothers were so fearless with their knowledge, and their retention of information and facts was indomitable. As many other of these guys are doing as well. Not just these two, but I'm talking about these two right now, okay? But once these brothers started to reach a wider spectrum of listeners and began to debate with people outside of the Black community, something changed. To make a long story short, Brother Polite is serving a prison term for molestation and child abuse, and Young Pharaoh is fighting for his sanity. Both brothers were the new shining stars of the conscious community next to their peers and contemporaries, extremely brilliant orators and valiant debaters. So how did they succumb to these fates? It makes you wonder. How did such intelligent and bright people succumb to these things? Brother Polite boasted a polygamous marriage that we all witnessed. We saw his wives on camera. He showed them. And they were seemingly all getting together with his brilliant daughter he has a young daughter, and she speaks various languages at a very early age. So you think the last thing he get caught up in is a molestation and an abuse charge. But once he veered away from his historical and racial knowledge and began traveling and staying in expensive hotels bi-coastally and showing off his Rolls Royce, calling his posts Rolls Royce diaries, and donning designer branding clothing, we lost a brilliant conscious speaker. And I watched this happening in real time, you guys. I remember when he used to spit knowledge, you couldn't even stand next to this brother. This brother was so fierce, and he was so rapid fire, and he could just spit out the knowledge, just spit out dates, spit out the names, spit out the information, just like off the top of his head, like he knew it. Suddenly, he's driving around in Beverly Hills and Florida and these places, and he's showing off these designer clothing. He's showing off all the stuff he's wearing. He's showing off the hotels that he's staying in, or apartments that he's supposed to be renting on both coasts, out in Los Angeles and Florida, and I don't know what was going on. And then he started talking about, he switched his focus to how to make money and urged his followers to take his paid courses on how to build your wealth. Now, okay, to an extent I can get with that. He's trying to teach us how to, amass wealth in our community. But soon after, he was being accused of molestation and abuse. It pained me to see such a bright star fall from grace. I was expecting so much from him, and maybe when he gets released from his sentence, he just might have humbled himself and returned back to his true mission, the knowledge. Okay, I hope he gets back to that. Rolls Royce diaries, we don't have to close our door, so he pushes a button and the Rolls Royce doors close by themselves. But that's not what made you Brother Polite, not Rolls Royces and automatic doors. It was about the knowledge. How did he get away from the knowledge into just about the money? Then I heard people coming online and accusing him of that they sent in money, but his course wasn't being completed, and all these things going on. I don't want to get into that because these are allegations and I don't know. Maybe he just got intoxicated with his fame and the money that was coming in. I don't know. I wish the best for the brother, you know. And if there's any victims of his sexual molestation charges or whatever, or abuse, I pray for them as well, you know. So I don't know how this happened, you guys. Similarly, young Pharaoh moved into a house and was driving a fancy sports car, and it looked as though he had moved up the social ladder. Then he started acting erratic and fighting with his baby's mama online, calling her names and stuff, which shocked the hell out of me and many other of his followers. Then he went online behaving extremely out of character and rambling on about irrelevant personal issues. You know, I don't want to repeat any of this stuff, you guys, and I don't want to feed into the drama, you know, because I really respected these guys, you know, mission of what they were doing in the conscious community. But he did claim to have been drugged at a party by a certain female acquaintance. Something definitely altered his mind and his health, that's for sure. Young Pharaoh had a debate with a rabbi. He had a debate with a rabbi. It was very respectful. He wasn't disrespecting the rabbi. He was spitting the information of the origins of the Jewish community, the Jewish people actually, as a race, and the origins of the Africans, and the anachronology of what wasn't added up in their chronology of their biblical stories and their historical stories. And he was putting things in perspective. And he put that rabbi in check. He was putting them in check. You see, here's the thing about people who were raised on the biblical books. If you believe these biblical books to be the absolute truth, so now when you're faced with actual historical events, with dates, with times, and real people and real things, they don't add up. So now becomes cognitive dissonance, because something that you believe in, but you see something else and something seems like it's not right, but you can't let go of this thing because this is what you invested all your faith into. So those of you who are so inculcated and indoctrinated into the religion, when you hear somebody like Brother Polite and young Pharaoh bringing historical knowledge that's incontrovertible, that's empirical, even you're going, but wait a minute, you know, but I don't know. You just have to free your mind and let your soul follow. Don't let nothing dictate to you and tell you what to do and what you are. You're free to choose. Okay, you're free to choose. You have critical thinking. You can use it, okay? All right, so anyway. Today, I stumbled across a video of young Pharaoh calling out for help, you guys. He said his bodyguard had just left him alone and he's in a garage, unarmed. He's going, please help me, you guys. I need help. I need help. Somebody come and get me. I need help. I need help. The brother was just ranting off like that. I pray the brother gets the help that he needs and the love that he needs to recover himself. I really do, you guys. I really do. Even if he doesn't return back to his platform or whatever like that, it's just for his own personal good. I hope I almost had tears in my eyes because one moment I'm watching this guy spitting this knowledge, just his retention of knowledge. He doesn't have to look at a book or anything. He can tell you the dates. He can tell you the names. He can give you the errors, all the stuff that he's coming out with. And now he's relegated to roaming around in his garage screaming, I need help. Somebody please come and help me. I need help. I need help. To see people broken like that, you know? Now, I have never met young Pharaoh or Brother Polite, and I've never communicated with them. But if any of you know where he lives, or you have any personal contact on the brother, please check in on him. He's crying out for help, you guys. Whatever the case may be, however he's gotten into the situation, whatever's going on, you know. Is this just a coincidence that our brightest stars are falling off like flies? From Bill Cosby to R. Kelly to P. Diddy, back to Tupac and Biggie, and so on. But guys who exhibited the most remarkable sense of knowledge across the board and able to debate with the best scholars out there, how can they not be aware of such traps set out to bring them down? Now, there are still some credible young conscious scholars that I still listen to, and they're still out there, like, the General Sarah Seti and Shaka Amos, because these guys, they have to create their own personal platforms where they can speak more freely because their deliveries are so raw and unapologetic that YouTube limits what they can disseminate on YouTube, and it's so sad that America is supposed to exercise the First Amendment, which includes the freedom of speech. But once you start speaking truth to power and exposing certain well-documented lies, then you start getting censored. And it's deep. And I'm speaking for Africans, Black people. For us to tell our real history conflicts with other people's version of our history and other people's versions of themselves. Now, when these people are starting to get exposed, they start calling up to YouTube talking about hate speech. And now people have to get censored, and now people's platforms are getting taken down. But you guys are going to have to decide for yourself, okay? Either you're going to follow empirical knowledge, or you're going to believe in things that were given you to believe in. Do you know what believe means? When you believe in something, that means you have to have faith in something that you cannot verify and cannot be substantiated. You just have to believe it to be true. That's what it means to believe. When you have knowledge, you can't say knowledge without saying the word know, K-N-O-W. Knowledge is spelled with the word know, which means that you know. You don't have to believe. You know it to be evident. You know it to be true. You know it to be a fact. I'd like to stand on knowledge. Now, I'm not saying we should do totally away with belief, because there's some things that you do need to believe in, like I believe the future can be brighter. I believe Africa can unite. I believe the world can come to its senses one day, and we can get out of this quagmire of murderous, greedy leaders that are leading us all down one path to destruction. These are nice things to believe in. But why do I have to believe in who and what I am? Who and what my people are? Where we came from? What my relationship to our Creator is? Why do I need to believe in that? I should know these things to be evident. I should know it. And I like to stand on knowledge. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. I pray for the people of Iran. I pray for the people of the Middle East all over. I pray for the Israelis. I pray for the Americans. I pray for the Ukrainians, the Sudanese. I pray for the people in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the people in Uganda, Rwanda, all over the world. I pray for the people of Nigeria, Africa as a whole, the United States of America, Venezuela, the people in Cuba, the people everywhere, Russia. I mean, I'm not a racist, I hate some of the things these governments are doing, and I hate some of the governments, but I can't go around hating the individual people, that's not going to warrant me anything. I'm trying to spread the love. That's my mission. And if I can just help in my minute effort, my life would not have been in vain. My motto is make love great again. I believe if we make love great again, we will all be great. Keep your eyes on the news. Watch multiple sources, not just one channel of news, okay? So you can get a balance of stuff. And then watch social media, because there are people out there live taking film. But the stupid thing is, there's so much mendacity going on. There's so much AI generated versions of, so people are showing fake bombs. Last year, there was this exhibition with all these drones. You know how they make all these drones go up and they make all these shapes and letters and faces like a hologram up in the sky? And there was an accident and the drones came raining down from the sky. Somebody took a video of those drones raining down and said that, look at the bombs falling out of the sky over Iran and Israel. You see what people are doing? They should, when they see things like that, they should shut these people. If they can shut us down for telling our truth, which is real truth, why can't they shut people down for all these false videos that are misleading people? When they see that people are just putting out fake news and false, intentionally putting out false things. Why don't they shut them down? Why shut us down for telling our truth? Why don't you shut them down? Somebody's put up, I know Bruce Willis, the actor, he's very ill and he's suffering some things, and somebody just put, oh, Bruce Willis died. And he hadn't died. Why didn't they recognize that and take that down and delete that person's account? You see, but they can delete us and take us down for telling our truths. Anyway, you guys, I'm gonna let you go now. I wish the best for you all. Stay blessed. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and the people who are stranded overseas trying to get home, are stranded in another country that connects with Dubai because they shut down Dubai airport. There are a lot of people, even some people were on a cruise ship and they're supposed to get off the ship and fly home after their cruise, but they have to stay on the cruise ship because airports are shut down over in that region. So I hope all these people resolve all these issues and get back home to their loved ones. I hope they can find a way to stop this war and aggression. And, you know, I don't know, you guys. Iran is not a country. I don't know if you guys understand that. Iran is not a country. It's a civilization. It goes back to Persia. It goes back to Mesopotamia. This thing goes back thousands and thousands of years. It's not just like going up in Venezuela and taking out the leader and everybody's going to just bow down and cocktail and capitulate. Now, it's not that easy. These people are not just fighting for a flag or the country. They're fighting for deeper, you know, and stronger convictions. So you know, I wish the best for them, you guys. I wish the best for everybody, and I hope this thing stops, okay? All right, you guys, take care. God bless you. I love you all. I love you all.